All right, class. So good morning. Today we're going to begin our environmental health unit. So does anybody know exactly what environmental health is? Well, environmental health is how the environment around us affects our health. So, i.e., like how cars having pollution into the air affects how we breathe it in, or how we affect the environment around us. So for today's lesson, we're going to be doing part one of a two-part lecture. The lecture is how we as humans negatively affect our environment. Before we begin our lesson, though, I want everyone to think to themselves about some of the ways that we as humans affect our environment negatively because of the things that we do. I already know that by myself, I can think of a few. Littering, pollution, making excessive noise, destroying nature, and things of that sort, and wasting resources. So let's get started with the lesson. Remember, guys, we want to take notes because at the end of this unit, we have a 20-question quiz about what we've learned this week. So let's begin the lesson. So this is part one of how we affect our environment by me. So if you have more people, there's more problems in the earth. As more people come onto the earth, you have more people using resources and more problems that occur because of it. So right now, Earth has 7 billion people populating the planet. Obviously, this causes problems like I stated before. As more people living means that we need more resources to be able to live. Some countries have enough resources for this, like the United States, but other countries, second and third world countries, do not have the same luxury. So that leads into our next slide. Poverty and hunger. If you don't have enough resources, people fall into poverty. Poverty is a condition of not having enough resources to be able to eat and live healthfully. This causes people to go hungry and become malnourished as they do not have a proper diet to sustain their health. Here's a graphic showing the percentage of people in the United States who sometimes or often don't have enough to eat. Now, I know it's kind of blurry, but I did the best I could with the image here. So this is showing that 21%, as high as 21% in some states, don't have enough to eat at times. And notice where it's the darkest at. We're obviously from Louisiana, and we're one of the people with the most poverty in the entire nation. So that's not good for us. So next, we're going to be moving into talking about the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is a process in which water vapor and gases in the atmosphere absorb and reflect infrared rays and warm Earth's surfaces. So basically, it takes rays from the sun and traps them, and it warms the earth. So here we have examples of greenhouse gases through this graphic. A lot of them are very common. We breathe out CO2. There's methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases. But see how big CO2 is. We emit CO2 every time we breathe out. So that begs the question, do we cause greenhouse gases to occur? Maybe so. So here's another graphic. It shows exactly how the greenhouse effect works here. We're going to wait for it to restart so we can explain it here, break it down. So the sunlight reaches the earth. The energy is reflected into space. Some is absorbed and re-radiated as heat. And then most of the heat is absorbed by greenhouse gases and then radiated in all directions, warming the earth, which has been a big cause of problems in near times, because the ocean is as much as 1 degree hotter than it was 100 years ago, and the temperatures are going up while hurricanes in areas that have hurricanes are worse, tornadoes in areas that have tornadoes are worse. It's causing the weather to go all out of whack. So next we're going to move into global warming. Global warming is a big problem. I'm sure that everyone here in some fashion has heard of global warming. They always talk about it in some way or another. It's becoming a big problem, and that's why you hear about it more often. So, what is global warming, you may ask? Well, it's as simple as an increase in Earth's temperature. Global warming has caused glaciers to melt and sea levels to rise, and like I said earlier, areas that have bad weather, it causes bad weather to get even worse, like hurricane seasons. In the past few hurricane seasons we've had has been the most active that it's ever been because the hurricanes and the weather are just getting worse. So there's more hurricanes every year. I mean, last year we had two bad ones that tore through Louisiana. So the greenhouse effect and global warming are related, actually. They cause Earth's temperature to rise from the burning of fossil fuels. Global warming and weather. Scientists believe that global warming will cause weather patterns to change and that flooding and droughts will increase over time, as we stated earlier. Let's go over the thinning of the ozone layer. So ozone is a form of oxygen. The ozone protects us from dangerous ultraviolet rays, which is rays from the sun. Too much UV rays cause sunburns, cancer, cataracts, and other health conditions. This can also spell danger for farms and forests too. So to put it into perspective, ozone breaking down causes more strife for us as humans. Because if the ozone doesn't exist, we all die because the sun's going to cook us. So if the ozone isn't thinning as much as it is, it would probably be much more difficult to get a sunburn. But because of UV rays, we get sunburns. So on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about chemicals and how they affect the ozone. There are certain chemicals that humans use that can negatively affect the ozone. CFCs are one of these chemicals specifically. CFC is short for chlorofluorocarbons. CFCs are used in aerosol sprays, refrigerators, air conditioners, and insulation. This gas is a leading cause of the ozone layer to be thinning. So here's the thing about CFCs. I remember we did a lesson on this whenever I was in school. Back in the 50s and 60s, the refrigerators and ACs that they used, full of CFCs, and it wasn't healthy at all. So they started going away from that in, modern appliances like our refrigerators and things like that. But I know at my house right now, we have a refrigerator that's from 1965. And that refrigerator is old and still uses CFCs. So if I want to help get rid of the ozone layer depleting, I would have to throw out that refrigerator. Right here, we have a graphic showing how aerosol sprays affect the earth through CFCs. Very cool graphic here. So we have a YouTube video on global warming that we're going to watch.
Have to slow down at work. Stay on top of emails, documents, and more without having to.
Today we're going to learn about something called global warming, and this video is for kids, but you know what? Adults can watch this and learn some new things too, and you might have heard of global warming.
So as he said, adults can watch this too. I would recommend whenever you get home later, if you find that global warming is as interesting as I do, I would show this video to your parents. That's what I would like to do because, we can help spread awareness for things like global warming by doing something as simple as showing a video to your parents or your friends. This can cause us to, do things to help prevent global warming from happening. So let's continue with the video.
You're thinking, what is it? Why is it important to learn about it? What can we do about it? You're going to learn all that in this simple video. So here we have the sun. The sun is a massive star that's in the center of our solar system, and it's a nearly perfect sphere of hot plasma. It's basically a burning ball of fire in the center of our solar system. And because it's in the center of our solar system, the light from the sun heats the Earth. It's pretty awesome. It works really well. Because think of how cold it would be here without the heat from the sun. I mean, no one would even be able to live here. It would be crazy. There wouldn't even be any light. Okay, there'd be a lot of problems. Okay, it would be really bad. It would be really bad. Anyway, sunlight, this is really good. This is amazing. So how does the sunlight heat the Earth? Well, heat from the sun is trapped mainly by four gases in our atmosphere: carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, and ozone. And these are good.
Now remember, these aren't the same gases that we looked at earlier. Earlier we looked at the leading gases that contribute to the greenhouse effect and global warming. So these are different. These are the leading gases that help protect the Earth through, how we can get sunlight and it gets trapped and everything like that.
Good. Without these four gases, they're also known as the greenhouse gases. Without these gases, much of the heat would just bounce right back into space. Yeah, cold. I mean, cold if we don't have those gases trapping heat. So as we said before, it works well unless it isn't balanced. Which is the answer to the question, why do we have global warming? You see, the gases are no longer balanced. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, it releases too much carbon dioxide. Remember, carbon dioxide is one of the gases that traps heat.
I'm going to take away my camera for now. That way we can see the entire screen, because I feel like my little box that I'm talking in is getting in the way of the video and seeing some of the words that pop up or some of the images. So for the rest of the video, I'm going to take myself off of the screen, but we will continue watching the video and I'll be able to speak to you.
It's one of the greenhouse gases. Too much carbon dioxide means too much heat is getting trapped. And you might be wondering, okay, does that make much of a difference? Is it really a big deal that there's so much carbon dioxide? Well, think about this. 2014 was the hottest year on record. That means as long as they've been keeping track of temperatures, 2014 was the hottest year on record ever. Oh my goodness. Okay, and then the next year rolled around, and oh my goodness, 2015 was the hottest year on record. So for 2 years in a row, we had the hottest temperatures that we've ever had as long as we have been keeping track of temperatures. 2015 was the hottest year on record. 2015 was hotter than 2014. And then, wouldn't you believe it, 2016 came along and was the hottest year on record ever since the temperature has been recorded in human history. 2016 was the hottest year ever, which means 2014 was the hottest year ever, but then 2015 was hotter, so 2015 was the hottest year ever, and then 2016 was the hottest year ever, and it seems like it's a trend. This video is coming out early 2017. 2017 might be the hottest year on record ever. We're yet to see, but 2016 was the hottest year ever on record. By the way, interesting side note, that information comes from NASA, okay? The folks that send satellites and rockets and amazing things. They're literally rocket scientists. So we know they can accurately find out what the temperature has been.
So as I was talking about earlier, everything in the past few years has been becoming more and more intense. So the video brought it up perfectly. The temperature from 2014 to 2016 kept increasing and was recorded as the hottest year on record ever since they decided to start recording temperatures of the weather throughout the years. And as I said earlier, last year in 2020, we had probably the most active hurricane season ever. We had 2 or 3 hurricanes come and rip through Louisiana. We've had tornadoes be more active than they ever were in previous years. You know, we had a tornado hit Ruston 2 years ago. We had one hit Monroe last year. We're having stuff all over the place weather-wise, just going out of whack. The winters are becoming more cold. The summers are becoming more hot. The hurricanes are becoming more frequent, as well as tornadoes and storms and things of that sort. Global warming is the cause of this. I mean, they say it right there.
So to review, heat from the sun is trapped by 4 gases in our atmosphere: carbon dioxide, water vapor, methane, and ozone. Those gases are good, but if there's too much, then it can hurt the environment. And the gases are no longer balanced. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas, it releases too much carbon dioxide. And of course, too much carbon dioxide means too much heat is getting trapped, and that's why the temperature keeps increasing. That is global warming. So what can kids do to help? Grown-ups need to find new ways of getting energy, like from solar sources. But what can kids do to help? Here are 3 simple ways that you can help as a kid. First is to save electricity. If you're not using a light, turn it off. Or if you're not using a device like a computer or a tablet or a TV, be sure and turn it off. When they produce that electricity, a lot of times they release carbon into the atmosphere. It's a good thing to save electricity. The second thing is to recycle. When you recycle, you're reusing something that is still able to be used. It's still viable. When it goes to a landfill instead of being recycled, it can emit more greenhouse gases. The third way is you can help plant a tree. Trees remove carbon dioxide from the environment and release oxygen, which we can readily use and which doesn't trap heat. Planting a tree is a great way to help the environment and to help against global warming. Thanks for watching this video.
Now, before we get back to the video, he showed 3 different things that we could do to help prevent global warming. Now, I would say the first 2 are the easiest that we can do. Saving electricity is easy. Like he said, if you're not using something, let's just say you go to the restroom and you get done in there. Instead of keeping the light on, turn it off and close the door. Whenever you get out of your room or the living room, turn the light off. If you're not watching your TV, turn it off. If you're not playing on your gaming system, you can turn that off too, or a computer. Recycling is also very easy. Most of the times in communities, there are recycle centers that you can go and bring recyclables, and they might even pay you a little bit of money if you bring them a certain amount. Also, throughout the community, there's going to be these little blue or green bins where you can recycle objects that should be all around the community. I mean, I know at Tech we have a few recycling bins, and I know around Ruston we have a few recycling bins. I don't know where the nearest recycling center is, but there's definitely opportunities to be had whenever it comes to recycling. Now, the third one's a little bit more difficult, is planting a tree. Not everybody has trees that they can just plant, but maybe if you find some wildlife group that wants to help save the earth and y'all decide to go on a trip to plant trees, then that could be viable. But it's definitely the most difficult option of the 3. But I would recommend, if you want to help prevent global warming, these first 2 right here, saving electricity and recycling, is the best way to go. It's easy and anyone can do it. And I would recommend that you ask anyone around you to do it too, because the more the merrier. I mean, if you have more people saving electricity and recycling, the less opportunity that there is for global warming to occur more. So let's get back to the video.
Thanks for watching this video. If we all work together, we can make a big difference together, can't we? We hope to see you next video. Well, I have a question to ask, a really interesting question. I hope you don't mind me asking this, but would you like to be on one of Karen Dorman's video joke one and which is really because
All right, everyone, so that's the end of that video. So let's get back to our lesson. All right, so that's the end of the slideshow. So right now, we're going to go over a few questions that I made for the lesson for everybody. So our first question of the day is going to be, what are 3 ways that we negatively affect our planet or impact our planet? I'll give you all a second to be able to think about it and answer it. And then after that, I'll be able to give an answer and let y'all know if y'all are correct. So the answer to that question, what are 3 ways that we negatively impact our planet, would be littering, pollution, global warming, greenhouse effect, deforestation, and destruction of nature. So that's more than 3 ways, but there's plenty of reasons that we negatively impact our planet, as well as using resources. So on to our next question, the second question of the day. What are 2 strategies that can be used to reduce global warming or ozone layer thinning effects? I'm going to let y'all get a second to think about an answer for it, and then I'll let y'all know if it's correct by giving y'all the answers that I have. So the answer to the question, what are 2 strategies that can be used to reduce global warming and ozone layer thinning effects, are recycling, or reducing energy use for global warming, or limiting vehicle use and reducing CFC use for ozone layer thinning. So, third question, what is one fact about global warming or ozone layer thinning? So, I'm going to give y'all the answers in a minute once y'all get to think of it yourselves, but there's going to be an answer for global warming that's a fact, and ozone that's a fact, but you only need to know one. So the answer to the question, what is one fact about global warming or ozone layer thinning, is that one fact about ozone thinning is that the ozone allows life on Earth to be able to live. A fact about global warming is that the United States of America actually makes up 25% of worldwide CO2 pollution. So before we move on to any next questions, I just want to talk about that last answer that I gave. I want y'all to think about that. The United States is allowing 25% of the world's CO2 emissions. Imagine if the United States alone just cut it out. No more CO2. All of a sudden, this global warming problem isn't nearly as bad. It's not just us, per se, that's doing this. Everyone in the world is emitting CO2 and littering and doing things that negatively harm the earth. We're definitely one of the leaders in this. So we need to stand up to where we can stop this and help global warming decrease because of it. So the fourth question of the day is, how can you prevent global warming personally? I think that this answer is pretty self-explanatory. Shouldn't be too bad to answer. So the answer to this question, how can you prevent global warming personally, is, I'm going to give a few options here. You can go green, which means to use more recycled things and, plant trees and use more plants and things like that. Use less energy, conserve resources, recycle, and, ride bikes to work and things of that sort, or walk instead of using vehicles. Basically, reducing the amount that you're emitting bad things into the planet. So our last question of the day, what are some quality resources that you can use to learn more about global warming or ozone depletion? Now, by quality resources, I mean, besides the lesson that we have right here, Where could you learn more about it? There's plenty of options out there. I'm gonna let y'all think for a second, and then I'll give out the answers and let y'all know if y'all are correct. Okay, so the answer to the question, what are quality resources to learn more about global warming and ozone depletion? The answer is the library, because they should have plenty of books about something like ozone depletion or, global warming or something of that sort. The internet, but here's the thing about the internet, you can't just go on any old website because some of them are not as factual as others. The best websites to use to get this information is websites that end in .org, O-R-G, or .gov, G-O-V. Org is organization and gov is government. So these are your most trustworthy sites whenever it comes down to it. Magazines and books have very good information in them about global warming and ozone depletion. And lastly, I would say educational videos and educational TV channels that talk about global warming. Like the Discovery Channel, they might have a special on that, or some of these YouTube channels like we just watched. So for right there, that's the end of our questions for the day about our lesson. So we're going to move on to our closure. All right, class, so that's going to wrap up today's lesson. What all did we learn? I mean, we had a lot that we went over there. It was some of the information was new. I mean, I've been knowing about global warming for a while, but in the making of this lesson, I actually learned a lot about global warming. I was very surprised and intrigued by some of the facts that I saw, and I actually did a little bit more personal research because of it. So I know that I learned that we harm the earth every day in many things that we do, and we don't even realize it. Remember that if you want to look up more information about anything that we learned today, I would recommend using a .gov or .org site to get the most accurate information possible out there. That's the easiest and quickest way to do it. Otherwise, you go to the library, you could go watch TV or educational videos, or use magazines and books. But the internet is always the quickest one right there, because you just crank up your laptop and go and search up something about global warming on a .gov or .org site. So we asked earlier if we could name some strategies to help use, or that we could help do to help the environment and get away from global warming and greenhouse effect. So for that question, I want y'all to think of more ways that we could do that. There's plenty of ways that we can help prevent this, but we're not going to answer it today. I just want y'all to think about that and let that question simmer. That way we can have more information for the next lesson. So, as I said, remember, if you want to look up more, use the .gov or .org site as it's the quickest. So we can also make changes to our planet that we've learned today that we can make changes to our planet by making small changes within our lives. You can also convince family members, friends, peers, classmates, neighbors, and anybody around you to help with the environment, to protect it. All it takes is for you to ask them, talk to them, and show them what we've learned today, or show them some of the strategies that you come up with to help prevent these things from happening. And it will allow those people to potentially come on board and help you make a change for the greater good, that being our environment to be protected. I would recommend that if you want to do this, come up with a few simple tasks that can reduce harm to our environment or encourage others to live like you are. So remember, keep taking notes, keep studying hard. We have a quiz at the end of the week. It's 20 questions, so start studying to make sure that you can get a good grade and that you pass the quiz. Have a great remainder of y'all day, and thank y'all for listening. And tomorrow we're going to be going over day 3's lesson, which is going to be continuation of this lesson on how we affect our planet negatively. So thank y'all and have a great rest of y'all day. Bye-bye.